Hello everyone, this is Boomer and welcome to my guide to the Star Trek Online Admiralty System. This is a brand new system introduced with Season 11 and it allows you to take or make use of all those ships that you may have got in the early game or you still got hanging around that you're not going to use, and it finally allows you to do something useful with them. Additionally, with the latest patch, we have the addition of the dry dock, which will allow you to take some of your ships, which I will look at very shortly. Yeah, there we go, Ship Selection Officer. It will allow you to take some of your ships, select them, and just stick them into an area where they're not in your active ship trait, so you can't select them, but they are available for to be pulled from dry dock. So if you have ships like fleet ships or lockbot ships, which you don't think you're going to be using, but you don't want to dismiss because you don't want to lose them, well, dry dock is your way around that. And it makes things quite a little bit easier because one of the things I've been looking towards doing is buying some fleet ships. But the issue with buying fleet ships is if you dismiss them, you have to pay for them all over again to get them back. And because I wasn't really willing to spend about $50 on expanding my ship roster, I never really got that bothered about it. So dry dock does help a little bit, and I probably will be expanding my ship roster a little bit. So this is your Admiralty screen. You'll only start off with a couple of slots, and you will have a roster of every single ship that has been active on your account since the Admiralty system started. You'll notice that I also have shuttles here as well. If you have older ships or Zen ships which you have dismissed, then you can get them back through the Zen store. So say for example you were like me and you bought a Rhode Island science vessel when you were at tier 2, but obviously nowadays it's horrendously outclassed by anything at your level at all. You can dismiss one of your other Zen ships and you can reclaim it for free. So, you just claim it straight away from there. It's available. That's all you need to do. If you bought it before through Zen, you can get it back. And what I did was I went through and just rotated all of my Zen ships, some of them which actually turned out to be fairly useful purchases. Now, each ship has a card represented, or has a card that represents it. Now, what makes this ideal is that you get the card, and even if you dismiss the ship, you still keep the card. So you only need to flash the ship up, let the system see it, and then dismiss it if you don't want to be using it. So I've got various models of rubbish shuttle here. In the latest patch, they introduced shuttles. Now, I say rubbish, but shuttles can actually be a really big part of the Admiralty system, but we will get to that very shortly. And we go from tier 1 ships from the light cruiser, the original series, Enterprise, the NX Light Escort, and so on and so on and so on. And you'll notice that they all have stats in engineering, tactical, and science, and they all have an ability of some description. So there are two campaigns that you can send your ships on. The Federation campaign, which is mainly based around getting skill points. So if you're looking to level up, get speciality points, then the Federation one is really the one to do. That will get you through specialization points really quickly. In fact, we come to my specializations, you'll see that I have completely filled intelligence, completely filled commando, and I'm 7 points off completely filling pilot, and then we've got command, which I haven't really bothered with. Although even then I've still only got sort of, what are we talking about there, 30. So I've got about 20 slots to go out of the total of, I think, 100 or so. So I'm pretty close to just maxing the character out completely. And a lot of that has been off the Admiralty system. So you'll get missions set up like so. and they will require certain levels of engineering, tactical, and science, and there will often, in fact, I think always be an event of some description that will go on during the mission. So it'll be either a diplomatic tribute, which you see here. You get a slightly bigger chance to critical the mission, and you also get a small amount of energy credits. So that would be a decent mission to go on. We've got an event here which is a level 5 diagnostic, which means that it will lower the amount of engineering required to complete the mission by 10. Again, very good. And we have this one up here, which is 75 of each, but it has an event called Useful Materials, which means it's going to increase the amount of engineering and science required. But you also get an uncommon R&D materials pack. This one, you can actually gauge which ones are going to be good or not by looking at their experience points. You'll see that this one, which is Uncover Source of Unknown Signal, which is going to be 15, 25, 60, has a much better reward than this one, which is 75, 75, 75 and useful materials. I mean, uncommon R&D materials aren't worth anything anyway. So in reality, this is a much better mission to send your ships on. So you'll come into this one and you can select up to 3 ships to send on this mission. So if we go down here, you'll notice I have a lot of mirror ships. We'll come to which ships are the best to use later on. Now, in my eyes, I'm looking at probably one of the mirror science vessels that I've got here. That takes me almost all the way up. In fact, if I were to send this ship off alone, it would have an 83% chance of completing the mission. However, what can be useful, now that there's so little necessary in order to complete the mission, I can use some of my sort of crappy early game ships, because some of the early game ships and the shuttles have really powerful abilities. So, for example, if I use the original series light cruiser here, otherwise known as the Kirkmobile, you can see that has given us a big critical boost. We can critical this mission, giving us a lot more XP and more campaign XP as well. And we only now need 4 science in order to complete the mission. But you'll also see here that the mirror science vessel here gives you bonus tactical engineering per tac ship or eng ship that you deploy. So in fact, the TOS light cruiser here is actually more like an 11-11-6 rather than a 6-6-6 due to this ability. And so now that I only need 4 science, I'm going to look at some of my other ships. I can either use the light cruiser to get another big bonus to crit, which would be nice. Or I can use my Ferengi Nefar shuttle, which would give me minus 25% maintenance per any ship, not including small craft. So that would give me a 50% maintenance drop. So what's maintenance? Well, when you go and when you send these ships on a mission, when they come back, they will go into maintenance, meaning that they are unavailable for missions. And you can see this ship, for example, has a maintenance period of 12 hours and it's currently on cooldown. I cannot use that ship currently. Well, by reducing the maintenance, you make sure that that ship is way more available, is available a lot quicker than it would have been otherwise. So if I just slot all those ships back there, give this one a yeah. So now we've got a 100% chance to complete the mission with a 20% critical chance, which is pretty good, and we're going to send those guys off. The other advantage to shuttles is that shuttles have like a 5-minute maintenance time, so they're always available. And the same is true with your early tier 1 and tier 2 ships. They only have like 30 minutes to an hour maintenance time, so you can keep them rotating really fast. Your big ships, your T6 ships, will have maintenance periods up to 18 hours. So if you can reduce that maintenance, it's often very much worth it. I probably wasted a maintenance thing there. There was really no need to do that. But I decided to do it just to show it off. The Klingon campaign is more to do with getting R&D materials and dilithium. And to be honest, you can get a huge amount of dilithium from the Admiralty System. Some of these missions. Number one, I do actually want some. You can see here I've got a minus 20 TAC mission, so that's really good. I could probably do this with just one ship. Oh, that one's so close. Well, actually, I can put that one on, and then I can use either a Yellowstone runabout or I can use, say, my light cruiser and increase the chance of critting it. That's pretty good. Intermix chamber salvage. This one will increase the amount of stuff I have to do, but it will also give me a small dilithium ore package, which is 500 ore, and these sorts of things are really worth it. So I will scroll down towards the bottom here where my more powerful ships lie, and I'll use a Presido, and then I'm going to have to use 2 science ships. So probably a Vesta, and I need a science ship which has 23 tactical. Let's have a look here. Yep, my Marine Cruise will deal with that, and it also gives me a little bit of maintenance cooldown as well. So these guys are going to be on cooldown for quite a long time, but to be honest, unless you're logged into the game constantly, you're probably only going to be refilling your Admiralty slots once a day, twice a day at max. So if you're just rotating your alts, this is decent. We've got Refinement Surplus here, which again is another 500 dilithium ore, and this one's an insanely easy one, so we can go back to using our ship. You'll notice I'm avoiding using these ships at the moment. More on that in a minute. Yep, the Mirror Star Cruiser can do that one all on its own, so I'll just send that one off on its own, and that's another 500 dilithium. I'm trying. Here we go. I've got one here. This isn't a terrible. This isn't a terrible event, but it's one that actually shows you what's happening here. You'll often get these big negative events which give you a huge amount of engineering required and boost your critical rating an awful lot. So you think, well, I can do this with an engineering ship. Well, there is actually an ability on these ships called Ignore plus Eng plus Sign plus Tack from events. You want these ships. The vast majority of them are Zen ships, but I will go through how to get these ships in a little bit. But you want as many of these ships which have Ignore on as possible. And of course, if you wanted any more incentive to make a Romulan besides LOL DPS, the Romulans, if they are, depending on who they are aligned to, they get access to these tier 3 ships, as well as their own ships which have Ignore, which I believe are their mirror event ships. So you get the idea, Romulans lol. So I'm going to use this guy. He's only on 4-hour maintenance because he's only a tier 3 ship, but he will ignore the plus Eng from the event. So if I assign to the slot, you'll actually see that the engineering has reset to 15, but I've still kept this monster critical rating that I've got down here. So if I finish this, I'm not too sure if that will be enough, but no, I need 4 more science, obviously. Let's use the Archer Mobile. So there you go. I've got a ship that's only on 4-hour cooldown, but I've managed to cover one of these big events, and I've got a monster critical rating from it. So I could end up with quite a lot of energy credits out of that. And that's one of the best ways to not guarantee a crit, but get into decent crit area. If you critical, you'll get these down here, which are called pass tokens. And what these allow you to do is just say, you know what, I don't want to do this mission. I think that it would be, this mission has got crap rewards. It's not really what I'm looking for, and I'm going to pass it. I would actually recommend that you don't use too many pass tokens. Reason for that being that you can almost cheat the system on this behalf. What I mean is, let's say, this one's a pretty meh one. It's got decent XP, but let's look at this one. You say, I don't want to really do this campaign. This one's really not floating my boat. I could pass it, but actually, the best thing to do, to save yourself a little bit of time, you just go, you know what, I really can't be bothered. I'll just send a shuttle on it. And you just get rid of it. And the shuttle will be off maintenance pretty much immediately once you've done that. So it really sort of behooves you to do that. Now, unfortunately, one of the... I'm going to have to use some because one of the missions I was hoping would show up has not shown up. But I will explain what it is anyway. You'll notice in the top right-hand corner here, we have Tour of Duty. These are special missions that come up every now and then. They'll show up down the bottom. I think they're highlighted gold when you do them. And they go from 1 to 10. It'll just say tour of duty number 8, number 9, number 10, etc. And it will, whatever the level it is, it will be 10 times, each level will be 10 times what level the tour of duty is. So your 10 out of 10 will be 100, 100, 100. And then you can actually get events on top of it. So once you've completed that tour of duty, it will reset down to 0 and you will get the event, or you'll get the reward at the end, which for the Federation campaign is 2 specialization points, and for the Klingon Empire is 30,000 dilithium ore. So Admiralty is a major way to buff up the amount of dilithium you are getting. I'm just going to do this final mission. This one requires a little bit more oomph, so I may have to use some of my more powerful ships here. Need a 50 tack, so that'll do. And I need a 25 science, so that's not actually too bad. I'm actually going to use this because I have another ignore psi somewhere. I think it might be on cooldown at the moment, but that's going to be the... I'd rather not use that if I can avoid it. Have we got... That's 21, is that enough? No, that's not enough. $21, $30. Really don't tell Shard that destroyer. Well, I've got plenty of other things. Let's use it. So you can see that I'm going to put a lot of my ships on cooldown, but that's yet more dilithium going on there. And I still can't get a tour of duty mission. Never mind. But I have just completed them, so it's probable that that's one of the reasons. So, that's a quick overview of how the Admiralty system works. I think it's a brilliant system. I really do. Because it's a way to properly increase the amount of dilithium you're getting. You can get a lot of R&D materials from it. You can get energy credits. There are other things you can get as well. And again, one of these missions hasn't shown up, which is obvious considering I'm doing this live. It's obvious that it wouldn't show up. You can see here, you get a mission called Pursue Escaping Interplanetary Criminal. You can get prisoners from that. And obviously, if you're a Klingon, you're going to want prisoners because that's your marauding assignment and you turn them in for dilithium. You can also get colonists this way, and one special item which you can get. I'm going to use a couple of pass tokens just to see if these come up. One of the special items that you can get is you can actually earn one-time bonus ship cards. You'll have noticed when I was scrolling through my ships, you'll see these ones here where it says 1x Advanced Heavy Cruiser, 1x Battle Cruiser. I don't actually own these ships, but through doing the various Admiralty missions, you can win boxes which have these ships in them. So there you go, I've got a spare Presido to go along with the actual Presido that I have, another Concorde one, a Zindi one. These are one-time use only, and then they vanish. So I very rarely use these ships. I literally just let them stack up because my ships are usually quite capable of handling whatever comes in. I will occasionally use them if I have absolutely no option, but that's usually, that's a pretty much last resort sort of thing. Rarities that people are going to have. I would say the rarest type of ships for most people are going to be science ships, because most people are not going to buy science ships. They're going to buy escorts and they're going to buy cruisers. So you're going to have a lot of engineering, a lot of tactical, and then science is going to kick you in the ass. So let's have a look at what ships are the best for us to get. The first thing we're going to look at is the Zen store. Now, obviously, you're not always going to buy, you're not always going to buy money from Star Trek Online. You're not always going to buy ships, but I'll show you certain things that I feel will be useful. So, let's have a look at going through the start. Now, some of the shuttles are pretty good. I believe the Delta Flyer is another one, which is a maintenance reducer. So if you can get that, cool. If not, doesn't really matter. You can also pick up some very cheap ones. Tier 1 ships, I literally just bought that because I wanted to buy it. Nothing really that, nothing really that outstanding here. Tier 3 is where it comes into its own. We have these three ships, the Constellation Heavy Cruiser refit, the Nebula Advanced Research Vessel, and the Thunderchild Heavy Escort refit. These are the three ships which have the Ignore Science, Tactical and Engineering stat on them. Yes, they're 1,000 Zen, but they're worth it. They will repay you in time when you start critting missions which have 2,000 dilithium attached to them. I was kind of lucky that I actually bought both the Nebula and the Thunderchild as I was leveling up because I'm an idiot. But it turns out I was actually someone who had incredible foresight into the future about what was going to happen. So these three are your options as the Federation. If you're a Klingon, my apologies, but your options are the Decoy Flight Deck Cruiser, the Phalanx Science Vessel, and assuming you needed any more reason to get the Vandal Destroyer, because not only does it has a plasmonic leech, it also has the Ignore Tack ability as well. So just in case you needed any more reason to buy the Vandal Destroyer, you have another reason to buy a Vandal Destroyer. The Valdor Heavy Warboard doesn't really do anything on that side. Tier 6 ships, I don't think any of these on their own have an ignore trait. Some of them are very powerful. Obviously, the higher rank your ship is, the more powerful it is. But that's really off the Zen store where you want to be. Tier 3 is pretty much where you want to be to get the ignore traits. I'm here in my fleet because there are a few other ships we can get. Now, there are ships you can buy just for straight up dilithium. These are your leveling ships, as it were. You can buy any of these for dilithium. Not convinced completely that they're worth it, but you can just get them. The Danube class runabout, I believe I have that. That's available for energy credits. Type 8 shuttle, again, useful for available for energy credits. Some of these you will need a shuttle requisition for, and I think I used mine on getting... I can't remember what I used mine on getting. Maybe the Yellowstone or something. I think the Yellowstone just got given out for free on multiple occasions. Finally the Stalker. But let's have a look through. Now, unfortunately, the other Ignore ships are fairly rare. If you are a Federation captain, your options are the Fleet Experimental Science Vessel. That is a Tier 6 ship, Tier 6 fleet ship, in fact, which is pretty good for one thing. I mean, it has a... The only thing it's lacking is a second Lieutenant Commander tactical station. But aside from that, it has Lieutenant Science Intel, it has Commander Science, and it has 4 tactical consoles and 5 science consoles. So this thing should, in theory, be pretty good. But that is an Ignore Science. You have the Fleet Guardian Cruiser, which is ugly as sin in its unique form. Ugh, that's pretty nasty. Yeah, you want that. This ship is a big engineering ship. It's a tank more than anything else, but that has the Ignore engineering on it. And finally, I believe it's the Fleet Tactical Escort. This is one of the newer ships, I believe, because it's a pilot ship. And this ship has Ignore Tactical on it. So they're your 3 options if you want to go higher up the ladder. Now, there are some of these super rare ships that have Ignore on them. Unfortunately, they are the Anoraks, which is currently going for about 900 million energy credits. the Ilachi Intelligence Dreadnought, I believe, which again is going for stupid money. And finally, the Jamhadar Strike Ship, which is going for stupid money as well. And I think there's one other, I think it's the Breen, not the carrier, the Breen Cruiser, which you can't get anymore. So, you're really struggling when it comes to that sort of stuff. The other one I forgot to mention is the Nova Science Destroyer that you got from the event that has Ignore Science on it. Now, one of the kind of advantages to the winter events, or the way things have been done on the winter events now, if you go into the event store, you can actually reclaim any ships that you have previously earned on your event. So I can pick up my Dyson Science Destroyer, my Kabali Samsar ship, and my Breen Sarthel, which makes things a little bit easier because they're tier 6 ships, and that makes things easier for my alts for sure. But one way or the other, it's a little bit more difficult. So just as a quick recap on the Zender store, the ships that you are going to want are the Constellation class heavy cruiser. This is if you're Federation. The Nebula, and finally the Thunderchild. Or if you are a Klingon and if you've got leave of your senses and just want to maraud everywhere, you've got the Decoy, the Flang or Phalanx, and finally the ship which carries a plasmonic leech, the Vandal. So where else can we get ships? Well, let's have a look at my roster, so we can have a look at where we can get these ships. You'll notice I have a lot of mirror ships. These are currently available on the exchange. There is a chance whenever you open a lockbox of getting one of them. They're not that great anymore when it comes to actually fighting in the game, but they're an Admiralty card and they all have at least 50 in one statistic. So they are therefore pretty useful to get hold of to fill out your ship roster. Unfortunately, they do cost between 2 and 4 million for most of them on the exchange, so you are going to be parting ways with quite a few energy credits in order to get hold of them. But again, you are more than likely to get that back over the course of the Admiralty system. One thing that you are looking into now, there are other cheap ships that you can get as well. I don't think any of them have any super cool abilities, but they are somewhat useful, shall we say. So that would be it pretty much for my beginning guide to the Admiralty system. I think it's a brilliant addition to the game. I really think that it's worthwhile doing. And yep, certain ships I think break the system a little bit, the ignore ships for sure. But at least it means now that if you do get a ship in the early game, it's not completely wasted. It's not completely wasted on the whole ship front. It will have at least some value to you later in the game. So that's it for this intro, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and this is Boomer, and I'll see you next time.